All right, what's going on, Sooner Nation? So we've talked about the transfer portal for the past month. We've talked about the potential defensive coordinator change, but today we got to talk some recruiting because the staff is hitting the recruiting trail. They're making offers, they're visiting coaches and players, and we have recruiting updates for the 2026 cycle where Oklahoma plans to land several big time targets. Now, I have made a class prediction. We will eventually put this into a video. But if you would like to check out who I think will be in the Oklahoma Sooners 2026 class, you can go over to the community tab and I will have that posted for you all to check out there. Or if you're in Jay's Discord, it is a separate thread under the Sooners recruiting thread. But we got to talk about a 4-star safety, several 5-star offensive tackles, and a couple other dudes that Oklahoma's in for and has potentially made some ground with or lost ground. So we're going to discuss that before we do. As always, join the discussion. Jump in the comments below. Let me know that you guys like this content. If you guys are new to the channel, hit that like, wipe your feet, subscribe. 65% of you that watch these videos are not subscribed, and you guys subscribing helps the channel grow. It helps push the content through the YouTube algorithm. And ultimately, it helps me bring you guys more free content and recruiting updates because as recruits see us as a bigger channel, we can have more recruits on, and we plan on having recruits on throughout this off season. So the first player that I wanted to start out with is a guy that I currently have slated to end up in Oklahoma's 2026 class. But that is the 4-star safety Jordan Deck out of Lone Star High School in Frisco, Texas. He is teammates with Oklahoma Sooners 4-star tight end Ryder Mix, who is currently committed to Oklahoma. But Jordan Deck here coming in at 6'1.5", 180 pounds, a really versatile safety. And this is a guy that you really felt like out of last season, Oklahoma was really good shape for. But it feels like throughout this season for Oklahoma and everything that has transpired, maybe Oklahoma's lead that some of us perceived that we thought we had might not be as wide as we thought it is. Had a chance to catch up with Jordan and kind of talk to him about his recruitment, and the deal is right now it's completely open to anybody, any of the teams that really want to go after him. And he's a guy that he wants to play early at some level. Now, I did get a chance to kind of ask him how his recruitment was going and, kind of what schools were really pushing for him the hardest. And he said schools like Baylor, Notre Dame, Michigan, SMU, Texas A&M are all schools outside of Oklahoma that are really pushing for him. And Texas A&M and Baylor and SMU being in-state schools, you would imagine would push pretty hard for a kid like this, especially Texas A&M. So that might be Oklahoma's biggest competition there. Michigan is interesting because we all know they do really well at developing the defensive backs, and they have pretty good defense. So we're going to have to watch what Jordan Deck is going to do. I would imagine with Michigan being in his recruitment, if he's committed by the time, if he's at Oklahoma, he'll obviously be at the OU Michigan game. But I would imagine if his recruitment's not wrapped up, he'll be at that OU Michigan game to evaluate both schools, especially with them looking like they're both in his recruitment. So Jordan Deck's been a guy that he's been on campus a couple times. I would still favor Oklahoma to potentially land him, but it sounds like that recruitment is a little bit more wide open than I initially thought. So you never know. That prediction could potentially change down the road based on what the intel that is given to us actually leads to. Now, James Carrington is a guy that we've talked quite a bit about. This is a 4-star defensive lineman, top 100 player, originally he's out of the Bishop Gorman area in Las Vegas, Nevada, a place where Oklahoma has recruited very well. And his offer sheet totaling over 30 offers from the likes of, a Georgia or a Oregon or an Alabama, right? Those are the schools you look for when it comes to defensive line offers. Now, James Carrington's been to Oklahoma only one time, but it's important to understand that last year it was hard for him to get out and visit a lot of these schools. He's been to Georgia twice. He's been to USC twice. He's been to Oregon. But some of those West Coast schools get a little bit of the benefit of the doubt being a little bit closer to him. Now, got a chance to also catch up with Tank Carrington. And again, asking him how his recruitment was going, and he said he talks to Coach Bates daily. So that's really good news if you're an Oklahoma fan. But again, asked him similar question, right? What are the biggest schools pushing at with you outside of Oklahoma? And he said Michigan, LSU, Miami, Florida, Notre Dame, Nebraska, A&M, Florida State, Alabama, and USC. So James Carrington's got all of the elite schools pushing after his services, and you can kind of see it, right? Just from being a 6'2", 240-pound guy, might not play on the interior, but could definitely be a guy that plays on the edge. And James Carrington's going to be a wanted commodity in this 2026 class. Now, we're going to talk about Caden Jones here in a minute, but I do want to get to the 5-star offensive tackles that I told you all we would talk about, because after we called the Michael Fasusi recruitment, several people in Jay's Discord were asking me, who are the offensive linemen you're going to go after this cycle? And where I'm not ready to call an offensive line recruitment like I was in the Fasusi recruitment so early, a couple names that Oklahoma fans really need to pay attention to on the offensive line is one, Felix Ojo. This is a guy that is currently down at the Under Armour All-American games right now, or camps, and coming in at about a 6'6", I think he's almost 6'7", 275, out of Mansfield, Texas. This is a guy that I think Oklahoma would really like to make, probably, I would assume, the number one priority, an offensive line. And the good news is, if you're an Oklahoma fan, I think you have a shot here to land him over the in-state school of Texas, because Texas is really going to go all in on a guy like John Turntine, who is also a 5-star offensive tackle up in the Fort Worth area. So Felix Ojo, obviously, his size is elite, and so that's going to translate really well. This is a guy who's been to Texas 3 times. I expect Texas to continue to push really, really hard. SMU has been a heavy player in his recruitment. It's been a school he's visited 3 times. But this is one where, if you're an Oklahoma fan, this could be your big-time offensive tackle, your offensive lineman in this class. Felix Ojo's one you got to watch. It's one where Oklahoma sits in a really good spot right now, and it's just one that I'd pay attention to. Now, the other one that I would pay attention to is Emmanuel Iheanacho. Emmanuel Iheanacho is the second best offensive tackle, right behind Jackson Cantwell. And remember, Jackson Cantwell did not include Oklahoma in his top schools list. So that's important to note there. So Emmanuel Iheanacho, he's just a little bit bigger than Felix Ojo, maybe a little bit more refined, but I still really like Felix Ojo. And if you get him over in Iheanacho, then I would take it. But Iheanacho is planning an upcoming visit to Oklahoma, going to be at A&M on January 11th, but you're going to have to battle schools like Auburn, Georgia, Florida, Oregon, Texas A&M. This is not going to be an easy recruitment. So I would imagine Bill Bedenbaugh, Ben Arbuckle, they're going to really kind of, I think, go on a guy like Felix Ojo. And as we continue to talk to Jaden O'Neal a little bit more as this cycle goes on, we will really try to find out, who are some of the offensive line he's going after to kind of go out there and protect him and be a part of his class. Now, another guy, and lastly, a guy that we're going to talk about is Caden Jones. I'm sure all of you are familiar with him. His dad played at Oklahoma, but Caden Jones plays up there at Jenks. He's running back. This is a guy that I think a lot of people are slated to end up in Oklahoma's class. It's actually a guy that I have in my class predictions. He's been to Oklahoma like 10 or 11 times, probably a lot more than that, knowing his dad's from here too, right? So Caden Jones, it sounds like he's just kind of enjoying his recruitment, taking things as it goes. But I would imagine this is a guy that, if you guys go back and you watch Jaden O'Neal interviews, Jaden O'Neal talks about Caden Jones as being a target of his, somebody he wants to get on this squad. So we're going to have to watch Caden Jones as a prospect that could land in Oklahoma's pocket. I wouldn't imagine this one would go all the way into the summer. I would imagine Jaden could convince him to lock it up a little bit sooner. So Caden Jones, not really worried there, but it does sound like he's just chilling right now. Want to take some visits, just kind of wants to see what's out there, but Oklahoma is definitely sitting in a good spot there. So as far as the recruiting trail goes, Ben Arbuckle's out on the recruiting trail, currently out in the state of California, got a chance to go out and see Jaden O'Neal, see a bunch of the other athletes out in the California area. And it's going to be interesting to see what Ben Arbuckle brings to Oklahoma in terms of West Coast recruiting. So if you are new to the channel, join the discussion, jump in the comments below, give me your thoughts. We're going to do periodically, especially as the transfer portal really wraps up, more of these 10-minute segments where we talk about recruiting, really dive into that. And I want to answer y'all's questions. So join the discussion. Let me know what you guys think. And if you guys are new to the channel, have not already, make sure you hit that like and hit that subscribe button.